Hey! Welcome to another video and another story. Glad to have you here. Today, we're here to recap the Manhwa return of the legendary Spear Knight. So stick around. This is the first episode. For a knight to reach the top and become a master, they have to break through all the old-school stereotypes that people hold on to like ancient swords. Enter Joshua Sanders, the legendary Spear Knight, and a hero known all across the Igrant continent. With unmatched bravery, Joshua quickly crushed the civil unrest in the Avalon Empire. But here's where things take a dark turn. He gets betrayed and poisoned by the very people he trusted, his superiors. In his final moments, surrounded by the ones who plotted against him, Joshua begs for answers. They give him this messed up excuse, blaming his loyalty to Mana, which apparently clashes with the holy power worshipped by the Empire. Now, that combo would destroy any normal person, but Joshua? He's not just any guy. His obsession with mastering the spear keeps him hanging on. Betrayed and confused, he never even cared about taking the throne. All he ever wanted was to show the world the greatness of the spear and overcome the stigma of being born as a concubine's son. As the echoes of civil strife fade, Joshua finds himself hanging out with Emperor Caesar von Britain, the tough guy in charge of the Avalon Empire. Joshua's got a heavy heart as he faces the folks who betrayed him, trying to make sense of it all amid the chaos. That's when Evergrant, the big shot from the Tower of Magic, steps in and spills the beans on an even darker truth. He gives a heads up about some serious threats hiding in the shadows, ones so intense that even the new peace post-Civil War won't keep the Empire safe from their nastiness. As the Emperor chases power, Joshua pops up as a real stumbling block, a force you just can't ignore. Even the old-school martial artists, who've been at it for ages, can't touch Joshua's natural skill, and his very presence makes the Empire's goals seem shaky. But Joshua can completely cover that massive spear, the size of two people, in aura. How many enemies has Joshua taken down with that spear? Evergrant also points out that way back when, he realized Joshua had broken through another limit beyond aura. All of a sudden, Joshua feels a sharp pain in his chest. When Evergrant thanks Joshua for everything up to now, saying that if it weren't for him, they wouldn't have made it this far, he's genuinely grateful. As they say their goodbyes and leave him on his last breath, Joshua yells from behind, insisting that this isn't the end of the story. Then we see a magic explosion circle appear under Joshua. Seeing the magic explosion circle, Joshua's like, "Whoa, I'm toast in 5 minutes tops." Frustrated, he thinks it's hopeless. Being the legendary Spear Knight used to be a big deal, but now it feels empty. Backstabbed by his so-called friend he trusted, Joshua feels like a washed-up knight ready to bite the dust without a name in this forest. As he tries to get out of the magic explosion zone, he senses some energy from his spear, Lucia, the deadly red spear everyone fears on the battlefield. Desperate to grab it, Joshua hoped it'd reveal some hidden power, and surprisingly, it does just that. His mind's a mess, but he pushes hard to reach the spear. Once he finally grabs it, the magic explosion circle hits its limit and blows up, causing a huge blast and leaving a massive crater. Now, in the Knight's realm, Joshua Sanders, Grand Duke of the Avalon Empire, faces a reality that clashes with his reputation as the unbeatable Spear Knight. Suddenly, we're on a farm, and there's a kid waking up. It's Joshua. Totally confused, he's thinking, "Shouldn't I have died in that explosion?" He rushes outside, sees his reflection in the water, and realizes he's younger. Looking around, he recognizes his old home from a past life. Joshua figures he's traveled back in time. With this realization, Joshua grins, thinking he's got a second shot. In his past life, Caesar von Britain was the reason he died. But this time, things are going to be different. Just as he starts feeling good about his second chance, 3 knights show up, asking why he hasn't cleaned around the horses like they told him. He knows these guys. They're from the Agnes Duchy, Ralchi, Lloyd, and Gort, the Centurions. Lloyd, looking all serious, tells Joshua he better respond when someone's talking to him. Ralchi reminds Lloyd that Joshua can't talk, so obviously he can't answer. Joshua thinks to himself that he used to pretend he couldn't speak because he'd get hit more if he did. Lloyd then wonders why he hasn't seen Lucia around. Ralchi hushes him, warning that the Duke might hear, since he occasionally checks on Lucia, the maid. Joshua remembers his mother, Lucia, the Duke's exclusive maid. He's the illegitimate son of the maid with Duke Agnes. Knowing this, the troops, especially these 3 in front of him, enjoy tormenting Joshua for having noble blood. Joshua has vowed to get revenge on them someday. Lloyd tells Joshua he needs to see Alicia today. Ralche warns him to be quiet in case someone hears. Lloyd reassures him, saying no one's around at this remote stable except the kid. He mentions that Duchess Vanessa claimed she'd take care of things if Lucia and the kid disappeared quietly. Lloyd thinks now's the perfect time, but since Lucia isn't here, they decide to mess with Joshua instead. Hearing them talk about his mother like that fills Joshua with rage. He's not about to let them insult her. He tries to channel mana into his hand, hoping he can still use it. His way of wielding mana now is different, more advanced, thanks to what he learned before he came back in. The mana technique Joshua discovered at the ancient ruins with his spear, Lucia, allowed him to quickly reach his peak due to its incredible world-shaking potential. Unlike typical methods, this technique doesn't rely on accumulating mana in a mana hole under the abdomen. Instead, it draws mana from the environment, allowing absorption with the entire body. This approach bypasses the restrictive limitations of a mana hole, concentrating mana where needed and releasing it instantly. By skipping the years-long process of forming a mana hole, Joshua advanced rapidly as a mana user. As Gord orders the others to surround and attack Joshua, clearly venting his anger at the mere sight of him, Joshua braces himself, tapping into a technique he had long mastered. This time, he wasn't the helpless kid they used to bully. He was ready to defend himself and prove it. As Gord prepares to strike, Joshua closes his eyes, not out of fear, but to focus. He begins gathering mana, summoning a skill he had once taken years to perfect. Before his regression, it had taken him 10 long years to harness even a fistful of mana. But now he already knew exactly what to do. The others mistake Joshua's closed eyes for fear, unaware that he's preparing his next move. As Gort lunges to attack, Joshua strikes first, delivering a powerful blow with his mana-fueled fist. His punch lands squarely in Gort's stomach, sending him crashing to the ground in shock. Ralchi and Lloyd, stunned by what they just witnessed, stand frozen. Joshua, however, feels a strange, sticky sensation in his abdomen. Something unsettling yet unfamiliar, as the force of using the mana fist takes a toll on him. As Joshua feels the strange sensation in his abdomen, something he couldn't notice before his regression, he realizes something's different about him now. Before he can reflect on it, Lloyd steps forward, drawing his sword, ready to attack. Joshua knows that facing a trained soldier with his current young and underdeveloped body is a serious risk. But Joshua also realizes that if he can knock Lloyd out, there's a good chance Ralchi, who's more cautious, might hesitate to attack. Gathering what strength he has, Joshua attempts to use his mana fist again. As Lloyd charges, Joshua ducks under his strike, and with perfect timing, he uses his mana-infused fist to punch Lloyd square in the face, knocking him out cold. Ralchi, stunned by what he just witnessed, thinks to himself, how could a kid who's barely able to speak possess this much power? Once might have been luck, but twice? There's no way this was a coincidence. Meanwhile, Joshua, despite his calm exterior, starts to feel intense pain from using so much mana. He knows Ralchi is more skilled, promoted all the way to Centurion, meaning he's no pushover. But Joshua also knows he can't afford to show any signs of weakness now. With a steely expression, Joshua locks eyes with Ralchi and delivers a message. From this moment forward, anyone who dares to insult my mother, yourself included, will be taken down, with my name on the line. Ralchi is completely taken aback, not just by Joshua's power, but by the fact that he's speaking so confidently. Joshua's demeanor has shifted entirely. Intimidated, Ralchi doesn't even attempt to fight. He turns and runs, afraid of what Joshua might do next. As Ralchi flees, Joshua's adrenaline fades, and exhaustion takes over, causing him to collapse to the ground. The scene then transitions to the palace, where rumors about the young master Joshua have already spread among the palace workers. One worker whispers excitedly, "Did you hear? Young Master Joshua from the stables took down 3 centurions, can you believe it? And he's 5 years younger than Master Babel." Another worker, skeptical, shakes their head. It doesn't add up. These rumors are probably blown out of proportion. I mean, how could a kid who was abandoned by his family just days ago take down 3 trained centurions with his bare hands? The first worker shrugs. If the rumors are true, though, it might shake things up in the line of succession. Who knows what could happen if Joshua's skills get recognized? A third worker chimes in, more confident in their opinion. Even if he's skilled, he'll never stand a chance against young Master Babel. Babel's already a mana user. Even Duke Agnes, who's now a master, didn't become a mana user until he was 16. But Babel? He's only 14 and already using mana. That kind of talent? He's bound to surpass even the great Duke Agnes someday. The workers nod in agreement, convinced that no matter what, Joshua's chances of rising above Babel are slim. Who could possibly challenge young Master Babel for the succession? It's unthinkable. As one worker turns, they're suddenly startled to see Joshua standing there, wearing a serious expression. Joshua calmly instructs the worker, "Go inform the Duke that Joshua von Agnes has arrived." The scene then shifts to Duke Agnes's office, where Ralchi is also present. Duke Agnes, seated behind his desk, looks at Ralchi and asks, "Which battalion are you from?" Ralchi straightens up and responds, "I'm from the 29th Battalion, sir." The Duke nods and orders, "Bring me the armor." Ralchi quickly complies, handing over the armor. As the Duke inspects it, his eyes widen in surprise upon realizing that the damage was caused by none other than Joshua. Standing nearby, the knight Chiffon, who has been observing the situation closely, warns Ralchi in a stern tone, "Choose your words carefully, soldier. Any lies will not be forgiven." Ralchi, nervous but resolute, responds, "I swear on my honor, I've spoken no lies." Hearing this, Duke Agnes turns to Chiffon and asks for his opinion on the matter. He then inquires about Joshua's age. Chiffon replies, "Joshua is 9 years old." The Duke's eyes widen in surprise as he processes this information, thinking that it's quite remarkable for someone so young to have destroyed a suit of armor made of orc leather with his bare hands. "Well, it's possible if he used mana," the Duke muses. However, Chiffon quickly interjects, disbelief clear in his voice. "That's impossible, my lord. There hasn't been a single documented case of anyone being able to use mana in a real fight at the age of 9 in the entire history of the continent. Even if young Master Joshua is an unprecedented genius, one must at least be a highly talented B-rank knight to channel mana over their bare hands. I simply cannot believe that a 9-year-old could achieve that." Chiffon continues, "It seems more likely that these individuals are just scared of being exposed for bullying young Master Joshua and have concocted this nonsensical excuse with their pitiful minds." He adds, "If you permit it, my lord, I can drag this man outside and teach him a public lesson to restore discipline among our troops." Ralchi, clearly intimidated by Chiffon's threat, quickly defends himself, saying, "I swear, everything I said is the truth." Hearing this, Chiffon warns Ralchi to speak the truth, or he'll take him down. Ralchi, visibly scared, insists that he has told nothing but the truth. But before Chiffon can take any action, Duke Agnes intervenes. Chiffon argues that they can't just leave Ralchi unpunished after he spread a rumor, but the Duke calmly states that they will uncover the truth once they meet the person in question. He adds that it's about time he met Joshua for the first time and expresses his intent to see Joshua himself. Chiffon is taken aback, wondering why Duke Agnes would take such an interest in the son of a concubine, especially when he has never shown similar interest in young Master Babel, who is celebrated as the Empire's greatest genius. The Duke then asks Chiffon where Joshua is, to which Chiffon replies that he received word that Joshua has arrived at the palace and is likely waiting in the waiting room on the first floor. Duke Agnes instructs Chiffon to lead the way, and they exit the office together. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the corridors of Agnes' palace, where Babel spots Joshua. Frustrated, Babel can't comprehend why Joshua is here. He confronts Joshua, asking what he's doing, but Joshua doesn't respond. Instead, he fixates on the portrait of the current Emperor of Avalon, Marcus Van Britten. Every time Joshua lays eyes on this image, a surge of anger wells up inside him. He thinks to himself about Caesar Van Britten, vowing that he will definitely take his revenge one day. Seeing Joshua seemingly ignoring him, Babel rushes at him with a clenched fist. However, Joshua's reflexes are lightning fast. He intercepts Babel's punch with a deft maneuver, catching his fist before it can connect. Babel is taken aback, surprised by Joshua's unexpected strength and the fierce aura radiating from him. He starts to suspect that the rumors about Joshua beating 3 soldiers are likely true. However, Babel is determined not to back down without a fight. Just as he prepares to attack Joshua with mana, Duke Agnes enters the room with Chiffon. He asks Babel what he and Joshua are doing. Surprised to see his father, Babel quickly kneels and greets him. Duke Agnes questions Babel about his actions, to which Babel replies that he and Joshua were simply exchanging heartfelt greetings. The Duke raises an eyebrow, confused by Babel's response, and shifts his attention to Joshua. Noticing that Joshua isn't greeting him, Chiffon becomes frustrated and admonishes Joshua to mind his manners. But Duke Agnes stops Chiffon, sensing the tension in the air and the hostility in Joshua's gaze. This only intensifies Joshua's feelings. The sight of the portrait had reminded him of the Emperor, and now the anger boiling inside him feels like it's on the verge of exploding. He realizes that this situation could escalate quickly, as Duke Agnes does not easily forgive those who display hostility, especially when it involves his own child. To Joshua's surprise, Duke Agnes calmly tells him that if he's calmed down, he should come closer, because the Duke wants to personally check whether Joshua can indeed use mana. Babel is taken aback by this, incredulously thinking that someone as lowly as Joshua could possibly wield mana. Chiffon, however, interjects, stating to the Duke that it's pointless to check. The Duke insists that Joshua step forward. Hesitant, Joshua thinks about how Duke Agnes is one of the 5 masters of the vast empire, known for his acute sensitivity to mana. If Duke Agnes detects any abnormalities in Joshua's body, it could jeopardize all of Joshua's plans. As the Duke approaches and grabs Joshua's hand to check for mana, Joshua's heart races. He fears that if the mana-sensitive Duke Agnes discovers something he's unaware of, he will have to rethink his strategy. But to Joshua's astonishment, Duke Agnes can't sense any mana from him at all. Hearing this, Babel smirked, thinking that he always knew there was no way Joshua could use mana. Chiffon chimed in, agreeing with the Duke, stating that there shouldn't be any mana to begin with. However, Duke Agnes clarified that he wasn't merely referring to the mana hole. As a human, there should be at least some basic mana present, even in civilians. Even mere monsters possess mana. But in Joshua, Duke Agnes couldn't feel any mana at all. This revelation led Chiffon to ponder the implications of Joshua's lack of mana. He thought that not having any mana meant that Joshua was no different from an undead creature that moves solely through demonic power. Chiffon suggested that perhaps there were rare cases of individuals naturally born without mana. Duke Agnes, however, believed that rather than being a natural deficiency, there was something else in place of the mana hole, something sticky and bad. He noted that he would keep an eye on Joshua, smirking slightly as he considered this new information. Chiffon quickly interjected, expressing disbelief. If young Master Joshua was indeed born with a mana deficiency, then didn't that mean the rumors about him were false? Chiffon insisted that he couldn't simply let the centurion who spread those rumors go unpunished. Duke Agnes countered that the centurion was also an asset to the dukedom, and it wouldn't be wise to punish them based on information that Chiffon wasn't entirely certain about. Chiffon apologized to the Duke for being too short-sighted. Duke Agnes then told Joshua that he could live in the palace for a while, as there were plenty of empty rooms available. Babel quickly interjected, insisting that Joshua couldn't stay at the palace. However, before he could finish his sentence, Duke Agnes shot him a glare and asked, "Is there a problem, Babel?" Babel, intimidated, quickly replied that there was no problem. Duke Agnes instructed Chiffon to start teaching Joshua the basics of night lessons the following day. He added that if Joshua showed any talent, Chiffon should then introduce him to the Crimson Knight's method for using mana. Surprised, Chiffon asked if the Duke was really referring to how to use mana, given that young Master Joshua didn't seem to have any. The Duke reassured Chiffon that there was plenty of time to find out, suggesting that both he and Chiffon would discover the truth if they waited and observed. He even noted that it would be better if Joshua didn't have a natural mana deficiency. Before parting, Duke Agnes told Joshua that he was looking forward to his return next year. Thanks for sticking around. I'll see you in the next episode. For now, bye!